Now,
So
what is the app? What
recording
is
has
the app
started.
that you use in recording?
Is that
What is the app you use in recording?
OBS?
OBS.
Yes, OBS.
Okay.
This keyword seems to be the most confusing thing in JavaScript as a whole. And by God's grace tonight, we'll be able to, I believe we should be able to touch it and you have understanding of how this works, how it works in JavaScript. So this is what we want to look at tonight. THIS. This keyword is a keyword in JavaScript. Now let's start from the known to the unknown. What we already know about this keyword in JavaScript. I think we've used this at least once or twice before now, and we've seen how it works in JavaScript, or at least one of the ways it works. So let's first start with what we know, then we now proceed to some new things about this. Now we know that whenever you use the word this inside a class, we've looked at a class. Let's say student, and I have let's say name equals to I have display name. So I have a class called student. That student has a name, and here is a method. So whenever you use, let me write it down. So whenever you use this in the method of a class, this refers to the parent of that method. So display name is a method. You know, I told us that when you put a function inside a class, it becomes a method. So display name is a method. So whenever I use this inside this place, if I say console log this, in this case, this will refer to the parent of this method. The parent of this method is student. So when I say console log this, it will refer to the parent of that method. Let's create an object out of the class. Let's say let std equals to new student. And when I say std dot display name, it will now log the parents to the console. Let's run it on the browser. So I'll check the console now. So we have the code class in the console, name type. If I say this dot name, console log this dot name, I'll say type. I'll see this. So let's quickly go over it. As we know before now, whenever we use this inside the method of a class, this refers to the parent of that method, and the parent of this method is student. The method there is display name. So this, in this case, refers to the parent, which is student. So it's like saying students dot name. So this will give me. Do you have any question? Do we understand?
For now, yes.
Okay. Let's proceed. Whenever you use this inside the method of an object, it also refers to the parent of that object. What do I mean? Let's say I have this name is styling display name. Let's say school. Let's use let's say department now, so that should just be something else. Let's say display depth, and I say console log this. So display depth. This is a method of this object called obj. So this, in this case, display name is a method of inside obj. So whenever you call on this inside this method, it will refer to the parent. So this in this case refers to obj. So if I say obj dot display depth, you will see the all object. So this, I can now say this does department, and this will give me software. Any question? You understand this one too?
Yes.
Okay. Let's now go to next one.
So sorry, sir.
Yes, sir.
Like, is it just these two instances that we can use it, or the other instances we use?
Okay, if it's just these two instances, I would tell us that it is the most confusing thing in JavaScript. I think these ones are actually straightforward. Yeah. I'm only moving from the known to the unknown. We've used this in these two instances before now.
Okay.
So, and I think we know these ones. That's why I'm starting with these ones.
Okay.
Do you get it?
Yes.
So let's move on. Next is this. You also need to know that whenever you use this, whenever this is used in a regular function, this refers to the window object. Let's look at this one. Now, a regular function is your ES5 function. ES5 function. So whenever you use this inside your regular function, let's say my func, this is a regular function. Whenever I call on this inside this function, it refers to the window object. I think I've once mentioned window object when we looked at events. Window, we used events dot targets. We did something like that. But note that whenever you use this inside a regular function, this refers to the window objects. Let's say console log this, and let's see how it looks like. Oh, I'm here to call on this function. So let's call on the function. So here is it. In this case, this refers to the window object. This is the window object. You know, everything we are doing is inside the window object. So whenever you call on this, note that inside a regular function, this is a regular function, this refers to the window object. How does this affect the way we write codes? Well, you can argue that maybe it's still consistent so far, because this my function itself is inside the window object. So when we use this inside this place, it seems right that it is calling on the parent of my func. I come again. My func itself is inside the window object. So when we call on this inside my func, then it is referring to the parent of my func, which is the window object. So for now, it looks consistent. But let's see how this is going to affect our code. Just note this. Whenever you use this inside a regular function, it will always refer to the window object. So let's look at an instance together. How we create an object. Let's obj.
Sorry, sir. What do you mean by window object?
The window object is the parent of everything we are doing. What do I mean?
Okay.
Imagine, instead of saying alert, hello, you can say window dot alert. In fact, this alert itself is actually belongs to the window object. But JavaScript just makes it possible for us to use all window objects directly. Console, instead of saying console.log, it should have been window dot console dot log. Window owns all of these methods that we are using. Your for each,
Oh,
it actually belongs to the window object. Do you get it, sir?
okay, yeah, yeah.
So window is like the parent of everything, but they just make it possible for us to call on the Windows methods directly without first putting window.
The window.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So whenever you use this inside the regular function, it refers to the window object. So let's discuss how this affects our code. Let's say I have obj, and obj is an object. Inside this object, I have name is Taye. I have display. Okay. I have courses. And courses is an array. Inside this array, we have, let's say, PCH, we have PSG, we have anatomy. So we have these ones. Inside this, we have name and we have courses. Then we have a method called display name, and I'll say console log this dot name. Of course, this in this case refers to the parent of this method. Notice the method Abi.
Yes.
So this refers to the parent, which is obj. Let's now do another thing. Let's say display courses. Again, display course, or let's say display courses. Display courses in this case also refers to the when you use this inside this place. When I say console log this, this in this case also refers to the parent of display courses. But let's say we now want to run a loop, and you know this is an array. If it's an array, I can use for each. So I can say courses, and I can use map or anything. I can use map, I can use for each, I can use anyone. Which one should they use? Let's say okay, since we are not creating a new one, I think for each should be fine. For each. Inside this for remember, for each is an higher order function. We've looked at higher order function, Abi.
Yes.
Okay. So for each is an higher order function, meaning that it takes another function as parameter.
I think someone wants to join the class.
Oh, okay. Oh, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So let me quickly summarize what we've done. Whenever you use this inside the method of a class, this refers to the parent of that method. That is what is going on here. This is the method, the method of an object also. Whether it's method of an object or the method of a class, this refers to the parent of that method. So in this case, this refers to the parent of this method, which is obj. Next is, whenever this is used inside a regular function, this refers to the window object. So, and we looked at an example together where we did something like this, my func like this, and we say console log this. ES5 function is a regular function. This ES5 function and this is a regular function. So whenever you call on this inside this place, it will always refer to the window object. So when you call on this function like this, it refers to this, the window object. So next is, we are still under this. Whenever this is used in a regular function, we are still under this place. Then I'm looking at an example so that we understand how this impacts our codes. Now, this is a method called display courses, and I'll come here and use anonymous function. I'll just say console log this. Let's start with this. Comment this part so that we understand this part very well. I'll first say console log this inside display courses. Console log this. This is inside this method, and I told us that when this is used inside the method of an object, this refers to the parent. So this will refer to obj. Let's call on this place obj dot display courses. Unexpected display name line 15. What's going on? Okay. Line 18. Oh. So this in this case refers to the parent, which is the old object, and it's fine. I can say this dot name. So it will display Taye. This will display Taye because this refers to the parent. Let's now comment this out and bring it here. Now this for each itself is inside display courses. So you expect that naturally this in this case should refer to the parent of display courses, which is obj. But let's see what will happen. Courses is not defined. That's line 20. What's going on? Oh. This dot courses, so that it's going to pick these courses. Then dot for each. Are we getting it? Are we
Well,
together?
with you, sir.
Okay. So this dot courses dot for each. We are running a for each. Then we just say for each item inside courses, help us to console log this. Now window. Why do we have this window? Like it looks somehow. This for each is working, and for you to know that it's working, you can see that we have 3 items here, and that's why you have window 3 times. Window. So meaning that the for each is working, but somehow this inside this place is also referring to the window object instead of it to refer to obj. If I try to do something like this dot name or something like this, it's not giving me anything. So what's going on? Well, what happened is this is a regular function. This is a regular ES5 function. To make it clear, I will split it like this. For each starts here and ends here. Inside this for each, we have a regular function. And whenever you use this inside a regular function, this will refer to the window object. Do you understand?
Can you please come
Come
again,
again,
sir? Why you come again, sir?
This function is inside for each, right?
Yes.
But this is normal function. It's like this ES5 function. This is actually ES5 function. It's like this. It's just an anonymous function. We've talked about anonymous functions. When we looked at HOF, anonymous functions are functions that don't have names. So this is anonymous function, but it is actually ES5 function. And whenever you call on this inside ES5 function, it will always refer to the window object. So because I'm trying to call on this inside this function, it is referring to the window object. Do you get it?
Yes.
So in fact, for you to get it very well, I will come here and do something. I will say my phone. When we looked at HOF, I told us something that you can do like this. You can say my phone. I thought that you can do something like this. You can put the function directly here. So this is the same as saying console log this. What I wrote the other time, and this will give me the same result, because this is inside is ES5 function. And so when I try to call on this inside this place, it's always referred to the window object. So whether you put it like this, you put my function and I'm using it here, or I try to make it anonymous function, anyone, it will still give me the same result. So this refers to the window objects. Note, whenever this is used inside ES5 function, it will always refer to the window objects. So this is not giving us what we want. So how we do something else? Let's see how we can fix this up. There are different solutions. One old way is this. We used to do something like this. You say let that equals to this. Let that equals to this. So I can now say console log that. So remember that whenever you call on this inside the method of an object, this will refer to the parent. Let me remove this for now. Whenever you call on this inside the method of an object, this will refer to the parent, Abi now.
Yes.
So as at this place, this is still obj, and we are saving it as variable that. So that when I now come to this place, I can use that. That in this case will now refer to the to whatever the value of this is at this point. I don't know if you get it. At this
Yeah.
point, okay. At this point, this still refers to obj. So we are quickly saving it as that because we know that once we get to this place, we won't be able to use this again. So we are saving the value of this as that. So that when we come to this place, we can now call on that. And that we now refer to obj. So we have this. So you can now say that dot name. But this is an old solution. But tired. Do we understand?
Yes.
Okay. So that's. Hope nobody's in the waiting room. Let me check. Okay, let's proceed. So that's about the first solution. Let's look at other solutions. A better ways. Yes, this, like I said, please don't use this method. Another thing is this. This for each function, it can actually take more than one argument. Remember, it's HOF, meaning it's a function that takes another function as parameter. The good news is that the another function that is taken as parameter, the another function, it's just the first parameter. You can pass more than one. This is taking the first parameter. It can take more than one, meaning that I can come here and pass another parameter. I can pass James. So meaning that I'm passing two values to for each. This is the first one, and this is the second one. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm passing two values. So whatever you pass as the second one here will be used as the value of for each here. I can say console log. So it will be used as the value of this inside that function. When I say console log this, in this case, it will now refer to James. Whatever you pass here has the second value of for each. For each will now help you to use this as the value of this inside the first parameter. So when I say console log this, this will now refer to James. Again, whenever you have this for each is built in such a way that it can take more than one. The function, your HOF, your callback as the first parameter, and any other value as the second parameter. Whatever you pass as the second value will be used as the value of this inside the function. So when I say console log this, it's a console log James. So James. Interesting. But then you won't be using string most times. Instead, you'll be passing an object here. So I can pass an object. I can say school and it's Lautech. So the value of this now is this object. So let's run it. So the value of this is object. So I can now say dot school. So to give me Lautech. Do we understand? Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
Are we confused? Please speak up. Are we confused?
I'm just trying to. I'm still looking at it. So for now, I'm okay.
Okay. So whenever you use the summary of this part is that whenever you pass two values into your for each, the first one is expected to be a function, but the second one can be anything. Whatever you pass as the second value will be used as the value of this inside the first one. So this, in this case, inside this function refers to this object. So if I say this does school, it refers to LAUTECH. So instead of doing this, I can now do something else. I can now pass this. What does this mean? Remember, I'm not inside the, what I put here is not inside this function, it's outside. I've been now.
Mm.
This is outside, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So this is at this point, this still refers to obj, which is the parent of this method. At this point, this still refers to the parent. This is like saying obj, passing obj here, and I explained to us that whatever you pass here will be used as the value of this inside this function. So I can say this dot name, and that is like saying obj dot name, because whatever you pass here will be used as the value of this. So this will give me Taye, Taye, Taye. So instead of now writing obj, I can now say this. Because I'm not inside, the problem is inside this function. Since I'm not yet inside this function, I can pass this here. And I know that this still refers to obj, and I know that whatever I pass here will be used as the value of this inside this function. So this will still give me Taye, Taye, Taye. Any question? Do you understand that solution?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So let's still look at another solution that can help us. How we talk about why is this new solution that I want to talk about, why is it necessary? Now look at something. The reason we can do this that we are doing is because for each function, this for each itself is built in such a way that it can take two arguments. It can take one and it can take another one. And we know that whatever we pass as the second value will be used as this inside the first value. Unfortunately, not all functions will work like for each. Not all functions have this ability in JavaScript. So what if what I want to use does not have this ability? Then how then do I go about it? And since we know that whenever you call on this inside ES5 function, it will always refer to the window object. So if this is not possible, it's because we are inside for each. That's why we are passing this here. But what if we are not inside for each? Then how then do we go about it? Do you understand?
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to look at that now. That now takes us to the bind, call, and apply. Bind, call, apply. So how we comment all of this out? And I will create. Oh, sorry. Comment out all of this. Okay. So let's create a regular ES5 function. And of course, you know that if I come here and I say console of this in this case refers to the window object. So how will I create a variable? And I will say new func, just give it any name. I'll say my func, which is this first one, dot bind. What am I binding? Whatever I put inside this bind, whatever I bind here, let's say I put James here or Tolu or anything, whatever I put inside this place will be used as the value of this inside this my func. Do we understand? Whatever I put here will be used as the value of this. I'm already binding Tolu to my func. So whatever I put here will be used as the value of this inside my func. Do we get it?
Sorry, can you come again? Sorry, sir.
Okay.
Whatever you put where?
Here, the name of this function is my func, and I'm saying my func dot bind.
Okay.
I'm binding here. I'm just binding a string. This thing is Tolu. So whatever I bind here will now be used as the value of this. It's not going to refer to the window object again. It will now refer to whatever I bind here. Do you get it?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when I say console log this will now refer to Tolu. But then bind the first that you save it as a variable. That's why we are set. So we this function will still look at something. If I come here and I say my func, this will still refer to the window object. But if I come and I say new func, remember when I bonded this here, I'm saving it, or I saved it as variable new func. So when I call on new func, this will refer to Tolu. When I binded this here, I saved it as new func. So when I say call on new func, this will refer to Tolu.
And not the window.
You said?
And not the window.
How do we?
And not the window,
Yes,
like the
not the
window
window.
object.
Yes. It's not going to refer to the window object again, since we are binding it. So you're going to see something like this if you are watching old React videos. You see something like this. So they will bind like this so as to refer to an object that they want. But most times you won't be binding string, you'll be binding an object at most times. Let's say names is TT. Let's say school is SKI. So this in this case now refers, this inside this place we now refer to this object. So when I say console like this, I will see the whole object. I can now say this dot name or this dot school. So this will give me SQI. But please, it is important that you save it as a variable. If I don't save it as a variable, this will still refer to the window object. If I call on the initial one, so if I say console like this, it will refer to the window object. So you use a new variable whatever you want to call on it. Any question? Now you might now ask that what if this function is a parameterized function? Imagine this. Imagine, let's say age, and I want to say console like this, then maybe age. So how then? Remember this, whatever you put there is already used as value of this. So how then do we pass this here? It's very simple. Pass it here. So the first value is used as the value of this. The second value will now be passed as the value of the first parameter here. Do we get it? Whenever you use this
What is the rationale for putting that 7? Or can you put any number?
No, I'm just saying that what if this function itself is naturally a parameterized function? Because
Okay.
if it's a parameterized function, since you are not calling on my func like this, since here you are not doing something like this. So how then do you pass value to this h? You know it's not possible like that.
Okay.
So in order to solve that problem, this is made possible. You pass it here as second one. So the first one is used as the value of this, while the second value will be passed as the value of the first argument here.
So if you have other, what's it called, other arguments,
yes, you now
should
now,
keep
yes, it's a continue
comma.
like that. Yes, let's say department. So let's say software. So this will now be passed as the value of the second one. So this software will be sent as the value of department. Do you understand?
Yes, it's fine.
So that's on it. There's it. Let's proceed to the next one. Aside bind, you have another one called call. Call. We want to look at three functions: call, apply, bind. The call, the apply, and the bind. So call and bind, they're actually similar. Like the difference is very, very, very little. The difference is that when you are using call, you don't save it as a variable. Like call will automatically call on that function. It will trigger that function immediately. That's where you don't. That's one of the reasons why you don't use call often. Look at something. If you use bind, Yeah. I can, maybe for now I still don't want to use this my phone. I only saved it here. I can reuse this over and over again. So whenever I reuse it, I know it will work like this. But once you call on call, instantly call will trigger this my phone immediately at that spot. That's the difference between call and bind. It's like this, just like bind, but the difference is that call will call on that function immediately right at that spot. So you don't even need to save it as a variable because it will trigger it immediately. So when you check this place, when you run it and you check it, you have it here. But for bind, if I don't call on this new function, nothing happens. Nothing happens. In fact, if I remove this and I run it, nothing happens. It's not going to call on anything. Nothing happens. You need to first save it as a variable in order to use it. That is for bind. But whenever you use call, hello, are we getting it?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
we
will.
have you see, sir.
So whenever you use call will trigger that function immediately. It will work exactly like bind, just that it will trigger the function immediately. So whenever you are using call, you don't save it as a variable. Any question?
No, for now, no.
Okay. Now, lastly, we want to look at apply. Apply works like call also. It works like call, but with an exception. Its second value, it only takes two. The value of this, which is the first parameter. And whatever value you now want to pass as parameter will be inside an array like this. So this whatever is here will be passed to this place. Let's say I only want to use this and I'm not passing any parameter. It will be like this. So if I say console log this, of course, this will now refer to this object, which is fine. But once I need to pass an argument to the function like this, let's say just like we did the other time, this 7 to be inside an array, but I'll need to pass software. So all of this, whatever you now need to pass will be inside an array. So let's say a and pass. So the first value here will be passed as the first value here. The second value here will be passed as the second value here. So let's say it has 5. If this function is receiving 5 arguments, all of them will be inside this array. So at the end of the day, apply only takes 2 parameters. This is the first one, which is the value of this, and the second one is expected to be an array. Do you understand?
Please, can you explain again, sir? Sorry.
Apply works like call, meaning it will trigger this automatically, but with an exception. In terms of when we used call, it's not good. There is no need to introduce any array.
Yes.
The second value will be set as the first value here. The third value will be set as the second value here. But whenever you are using apply, this will be inside an array instead. So that means this apply only takes 2 parameters. This is the first one, and this array is the second one. Do you get it?
Okay. Yes.
So the first value inside that array will now be sent as the first value here. The second value here will be sent as the second value here. But this will still be the value of this. Like whatever you put as the first value of apply will still be the value of this. Do you get it?
Okay, fine.
Okay. So let's say console this age and department, and you will still have the same results. Got it. So that is, we've looked at bind, call, and apply. Like I said, if you're using old React video, you're going to say something like this: bind, before ES6 was released. So let's now see our darling ES6, how it has made our work so easy, lovely, interesting, and all of that. So we were trying to solve a problem initially. Let's go back to our initial problem. Okay, yeah. This was the initial problem we faced. And if you want to solve this problem using the bind, apply, and the likes, you can also solve it. You bind it directly. You bind it. But with ES6, you don't need any problem. You don't need all of that again. Instead, change this function from ES5 function and change it to ES6 function and see the magic happens. So I will change this from ES5 and I will change it to arrow function. That's all. So this inside this place, inside arrow function, whenever you use this inside an arrow function, it's not going to refer to window objects. No. Instead, this inside an arrow function will refer to the value of this inside the parent of that arrow function. I know that looks confusing, but you get it now. This is an arrow function. The parent of this inside this place is this display curses. So whatever this is, whatever the value of this inside the parent of an arrow function, that is exactly what this will also be inside the arrow function. Do we get it? Are we getting it?
It's still someone, still looking someone.
Whatever the value of this, whatever is the value of this inside the parent of an arrow function, that will also be the value of this inside that arrow function itself. So whenever we call on this here, it will now use, it will ask itself, oh, let's go to my parent. What is the value of this? Maybe if you can even say for each is the parent. This inside for each still refers to obj. So whatever the value of this, whatever is the value of this inside the parent of an arrow function, will also be the value of this inside that arrow function. Do you get it? So the parent of this arrow function is for each, and inside this place, this still refers to obj. So therefore, inside this arrow function, this will refer to obj. Show you what.
Okay.
So we have this. So I can now say this dot name. So that will be taye. Interesting. So in fact, this is one of the reasons why arrow function was actually released, to solve this problem. So in new or recent React videos, you just see them use arrow functions instead of using bind and all of that to preserve the value of this. So that solves this problem. But then, this arrow function sometimes can still be a problem for us. What does that mean? Remember I said, whatever is the value of this inside the parent of an arrow function, that will also be the value of this inside the arrow function itself. Hope nobody is waiting. Let me check the waiting room. Okay. So, how we, for now, I'll come here and do something. Good. Let me just come to this display name and comment this part out. I will comment this one out. So we know that inside display name, this refers to obj, right? Because this is the method of an object, right?
Yes, sir.
So I will now change this display name from this and change it to ES6 function and see how that affects it. I can change it to ES6 function. So it is now ES6 function. This in this case will no longer refer to obj again. Instead, it will ask itself, what is the value of this inside the parent of display name? Remember I said, whenever you use this inside an arrow function, it will always ask itself that what is the value of this inside my parent. So whatever is the value of this inside the parent will also be the value of this inside that arrow function. So in this case, it will ask itself, oh, what is the value of this inside my parent? And whatever is the value of this inside the parent will also be the value of this. Yes, so let's look at the value of this inside the parent of display name. What is the parent of display name?
OBJ.
Good. As at this point, when we call on this here, of course, you won't have any reason to use this directly. Of course, this will even throw back an error. You won't have any reason to use this directly. But if for any reason we even need to call on this directly, maybe we are not inside the method, it still refers to the window object. So when you call on this inside this place, it also refers to the window object. Like it will ask itself, what is the value of this inside my parent? And the parent is obj. So at this point, the value of this is still window object because we are not yet inside the method. Remember, it is inside the method of a class or the method of an object that this refers to the parents. I mean that it will refer to this obj. But at this point, we are not inside any method. This will still refer to the window object. So when you now say console like this, it will refer to the window object. So it looks somehow, but then that's it. If you ask yourself, my parent is obj, what's the value of this inside my parent? Oh, the value of this inside my parent is the window object. Then it will now say, oh, the value of this here is also the window object. So when you run this, to refer to the window object. Oh, you say, well, what's line 32? What are we doing on line 32? Oh, obj dot display name. So it's referring to the window object. So for this reason, we will never have any reason to use arrow function as the method of an object or the method of a class. You won't have reasons to. But I'm just trying to show us that this is how it works. So that's why we use this kind of function and not ES6 or arrow function. Do we understand? Do we get it?
Yeah.
Okay. So for this reason, you won't have any reason to use arrow function as the method of an object or the method of a class. You won't have any reason to. But so the sum of everything is that whenever you use this inside an arrow function, it's going to use the whatever the value of this is inside the parent of that arrow function as the value of this within the arrow function. So I think this is overview of what this is in JavaScript. It looks somewhat confusing and
Yeah, it is.
it seems to be the most confusing thing in JavaScript. But then I think with the introduction of arrow function, this has been solved to a good extent. So you don't need to use call, apply, and bind again. So whenever you are inside, I think most times whenever you need to use this is usually in a situation like this one. Usually in a situation like this one. That you want to use this. Usually in a situation like this that you want to use this inside maybe for each or map or filter or something like that. So instead, you just change it to arrow function. Once you change it to arrow function, if you ask itself, oh, whatever the value of this is inside my parents, I will also use as the value of this inside the arrow function. So, any question as we round off the class? Okay, I'll stop recording here.